Our speaker will be introduced by Mike Schedinger of Schedinger Funeral and Cremation Services.
Hello. I'm glad we're getting started a little early because we've got a great speaker today. Rick Van Brimmer is the Assistant Vice President of Business Advancement Office of Trademark and Affinity Management at The Ohio State University. Try fitting that on your business card. What that means, I'll tell you here in a minute. He has been serving his alma mater for over 30 years after a brief one-year stint at the SEC, which he just told me at lunch stands for someone's So Everybody Cheats. Kind of like that. Rick oversees the coordination of the many affinity and sponsorship-related contracts at The Ohio State University. He is the arch enemy of counterfeiters across the world. If you bootleg a t-shirt or a casket without paying the royalty fee to Ohio State, his office is the monitor of this. Yes, we even pay royalties when we sell an Ohio State casket or urn or anything. I believe his office is responsible for $17 million of revenue just in trademarks and royalties. But now that's even changed since Ohio State is the undisputed national champions, and he's going to tell us about that. In my background research of Rick, when I talked to some of his closest friends, I learned that he was very sensitive, which I thought was interesting considering he's kind of got to be tough on crime. But I knew it would come in handy when he and I took a ballroom dancing class together a few years ago. He was much more sensitive than I was. He recently had shoulder surgery, so he has not been able to golf yet, which is a passion of him, so he has taken up putt-putting. Some of you may know Brutus Buckeye is turning 50 years old this year. Rick is very close to the mother and the father of Brutus. So for all I know, he may even be an illegitimate brother. He and his wife, Sandy, live in Dublin. And one of the things I learned about Sandy is that she makes Rick's lunch for him every day. But not today because he's at Rotary. So she dropped off your lunch bag to my office just so you wouldn't feel lonely. So it's up here if you want to touch it. Sure thing. Help me welcome Rick Van Brimmer to Columbus Rotary.
Oh, gosh. Obviously, everybody else at the university was busy today, so you get stuck with me. But I am happy to be here, and I was talking to Sandy over the weekend about coming down here. You notice she's not here. But in all seriousness, her dad, Fred Stone, Sandy's maiden name was Sandy Stone, go with that. He was actually the secretary-treasurer of this club after he retired as head of ROTC at Ohio State. So I have some kind of connection to you one way or the other. And his office was down the old Neal House. But I'm not going to ask if anybody remembers Fred because I think he'd be 102 this year. But I have a little connection to you. But I'm pleased to be here. I always like to come out and tell our story because we're commonly referred to as the T-shirt people, and that's really what you see most visibly about us. But there's a lot more to our story, and I'd like to share that with you today. So I won't go over any of the stuff Mike said, but we kind of called ourselves Ohio State's other national champion. We have 5 this year, but we're the 6th because we are the largest trademark licensing program in the collegiate business and actually outsell most of the professional league teams. So, like every good academician, I am going to start with a pop quiz. So everybody would turn off their phones. I don't want you to be able to Google any answers or anything. So put your phones down. I'm going to flash an image on the screen. And the first person that shouts out the correct answer, I actually have a prize for you. So somebody is going to have to help me monitor. What's that? Wrong. Okay, are you ready? First answer gets a prize. Okay, I thought it was over here. Mr. Thompson? Paul happens to be one of my friends. Okay. $25 gift certificate to Lids, Buckeye Corner. So, yes, now, how did you know that was a Coke? Shape? Okay. So we're going to give you a little legal seminar about trademarks. So what are trademarks? And when we talk about trademarks and copyrights and all that stuff in my world, this is the legal definition. Word, phrase, symbol, or design, combination of those things that identifies or distinguishes the source of the goods from one party from those of another. So when you saw that Coke bottle, the shape told you what it was. That serves as a trademark for the Coca-Cola bottling company. One of the most widely recognized trademarks in the world, and it is protected, so nobody else can shape their Coke or their bottle like Coke. So you passed on that. Okay, there was no prize. But yeah, you knew what those were just from their colors and the shapes and the design. So I think you guys probably, I can skip with the rest of the 2-hour legal part of this. And this is one that's just interesting from the fact that, you know, both of those people or both of those entities are known as the Tide or Tide, but they're very different. So trademarks can exist in different worlds. Nobody would confuse Tide the detergent with Tide the football team. But while we're kind of on the academic side, I don't know if you guys, you know, Jim Harbaugh is the new coach up at Michigan. And, you know, he was talking, I don't know if you've been reading about what he's trying to do. And he wants to bring in a little, you know, kind of go back to bringing in the Michigan man that we all hear about and, you know, the more well-rounded student. And he instituted some classes over spring and summer to try to, I think, kind of get that more well-rounded person. And he required everybody to take a music appreciation class this summer. And we kind of heard this story through the grapevine from Coach Meyer that a couple of the guys were in the class, and it was they didn't do it. They tried to make it a little tougher, so it wasn't a multiple choice. It was actually fill in the blank. So on the final exam, the first question was, Old MacDonald had a blank. And the one guy is in the front row is looking over the guy next to him. He goes, dude, he goes, I'm drawing a blank. Old MacDonald had a what? And he says, oh, you didn't study. You're not very. He goes, Old MacDonald had a farm. He goes, oh yeah, right, farm. So he starts to answer. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, how do you spell that? And he goes, man, you really are not very bright. E-I-E-I-O. Okay. So where we are at the university, just so you have some idea of our structure, I actually answer to two of our vice presidents. Senior Vice President Jeff Chattis, who is in business and finance, and then Gene Smith, who actually has two roles at the university. He's our athletic director, but he's also a vice president for business advancement. So we kind of go up through both tunnels, and the reason for that is about 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we started taking more of a holistic view of the university as it relates to our affinity programs and sponsorships and our business partners. So we had people like Huntington and Nationwide who were sponsors of our athletic teams, but they really had little involvement on the other side of the university beyond some philanthropy and programs they supported. So I don't know if you probably saw some of those details in the paper, but things like Huntington got access to the campus in terms of they are now the only ATMs and the only branch banks on our campus. So we're trying to look a little more broadly, and to do that, we needed athletics and the business side of the university. So that's kind of where I exist. As far as the little band that I'm talking about today, Trademark and Licensing, have 4 full-time people in addition to myself. We do all that ourselves. A lot of schools farm out agency work, but we've always done it ourselves, and we've been pretty successful at it. So we've continued that. So in the business sense of, you'll get a little broader vision of where I am. I'm in with the unit that manages a lot of our business enterprises, such as the Blackwell, the Schottenstein Center. We actually help manage now the arena downtown, and the Drake Union, and the Fawcett Center. So we're kind of the business enterprise hub of the university, anything that kind of reaches beyond. So what do I do? We actually administer the commercial use of our name, the trademarks, and even the goodwill of the university. I also oversee athletic merchandising and our affinity relationships. So I'm involved in those contracts with Huntington and Coke and Nationwide. And we also manage the Ohio State license plate program. How many people in here have a Ohio State logo on their license plate? Wow, that's really disappointing. I should have brought applications. Well, that's actually been very successful. I'm sure you've seen them. They're only $35 extra a year. Come on. But that generates another about $600,000, a little over $600,000 a year. So in addition to our royalty revenue of products, which I'll get into in a little bit. So, where are we beyond the oval? We are head and shoulders above most other programs in terms of revenue generation off royalties from product. Really, 8 out of the last 10, that's probably, to stretch it back, it'd probably even be maybe 17 out of the last 19. There was a couple years, and I'll show you a little chart, where Texas actually did a little better than us. But traditionally, you'll see the big schools, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, North Carolina, Alabama. Somebody, especially if it's a larger school with a big alumni base, if they win a national championship, it kind of propels you up the hill a little bit, and you hopefully you can stay there. But in terms of our actual business, and this is just on the product side, it's over $100 million at wholesale now. So this is huge business. I wouldn't mind owning a $100 million business. I don't own a piece of this. And then you look at something like the championship. People always ask me, like, what's the championship worth? And we estimate that based on sales just of the championship merchandise, not the stuff going up to the game, but just after the game, about $35 million alone right there. So you can see that, Coach Meyer gets a bonus when he wins. I got to work on that deal. So we have about 400 licensees, and literally they make everything, from soup to nuts. We enforce our trademarks. That's one of our big responsibilities in my office. We prospect for new things, and we're always looking for ways to generate new revenue streams. So Mike mentioned, we do have a casket. That is something that we actually get probably requests for that multiple times a year for people wanting to put the logo on their headstone. We've talked about cremation urns and other things, and you think about like, wow, that sounds weird, but not in the context when you look at things that are important to people from a lifelong perspective. And usually there's about 3 big ones. There's family, there's their military service, and then their college that they attended. Those tend to be lifelong emotional attachments. And that's really what fuels the whole product and business of what I do, is most of you, your emotional attachment to the brand, that I lived it, I loved it, I want to be part of it. We're a lifestyle brand now. We used to be just an athletic brand. I don't want to sound like the old guy because I started when I was 12. That's why I've been there 30 years. But, when I went to school at Ohio State in the mid-'70s, literally, if you wanted a T-shirt or a sweatshirt, you had to go across the street to Long's bookstore. The university's bookstore didn't even sell it. They didn't sell any emblematic goods in the basement of Derby Hall, if anybody remembers that bookstore. So then think about how that's changed, gone from T-shirts and sweatshirts to all the other stuff. You used to go to a tailgate party, maybe people were wearing clothes. Now you go to the tailgate party, we got your table, we got your napkins, we got your dinnerware, we've got your glasses, we've even got some of your food products. So that's how it's evolved over the years. And I use this example, I don't know if those in the back can make that out, but that's a chess set, and it was Ohio State versus Michigan, and the guy brought us that idea, and I said, I get that you want to have a competition, but this is going to bomb. He goes, oh no, we're doing Alabama and Auburn, we're doing all the great rivalries. And I said, I don't know everything, but this one I got a bad feeling about. And it did bomb because no Ohio State fan wants Michigan in their house, and they certainly wouldn't want to play them against an Ohio State team of any kind. So this failed because of the emotional attachment. Now they redid it, Ohio State home versus away, and it sold well. And the same thing for Michigan. Nobody in Michigan wanted to be Ohio State. So this was a bad idea. Just this is a little example of some of the links that other brands will go to play off of us. The billboard there was right in front of the stadium on 315, and it's Maker's Mark. And they actually have a trademark for the red wax on the top of their bourbon bottles, so they know a little bit about trademarks. And they've had to defend that many times. So they've got the wax figures spelling out the OHIO, which oddly enough is a protected trademark of the university. And a couple of the pictures below are off our site where I think we've got, I don't know, like a gazillion people from around the world send in all the ways they spell out Ohio. So we were able to successfully defend ourselves against Maker's Mark and had them take this billboard down, and I confiscated all the goods. Okay, so how do we do all this? We charge a 12 to 18%, depending on the product category, on the wholesale price of the goods. We're in the wholesale retail business. I don't have a stand where I sell T-shirts in the middle of the afternoon. So we license the companies. We don't make T-shirts, so I guess I should fill you on what is exactly licensing. It's somebody like us that we own a brand. We know it's going to be attractive to somebody else, so we sign a contract with a company because we don't make T-shirts up at the university. I don't make glasses. Don't make any of the products that we license. So we sign an agreement with a company that says, I'll make that, I'll put your name on it, and I'll pay you a royalty to do that. So we charge 12 to 18%, depending on the category. So that 100 million wholesale quickly becomes 180 to 200 million at retail. We're about a 60-40 still historically. It's been that way, apparel versus non-apparel. And then where does the money go? And this is what we're very proud of, because we figured out that we'd actually gone over $1 billion in sales. And it has raised, obviously, millions of dollars in academic support at Ohio State. So the majority of our money goes to scholarships, general need for the university, students that show some kind of academic need and academic success, financial need and academic success. And then we also support some programming in student life. We support grant and aids in the Department of Athletics. We recognize that athletics plays a huge part in the royalty generation, so it would be ridiculous to ignore that fact, so we embrace it. And then we also send a portion of our funds to the Alumni Association for some of the work they do in outreach and scholarship programs there. So, I kind of kid sometimes and say, I don't hold the beating heart in my hand. What I do is not, I don't save lives. I administer contracts that generate revenues, but the end result may be the guy who does hold a heart in his hand and works down in our med center. So we feel really good about what all these dollars do. And again, I kind of go back to the fact that people buy our stuff not based on need. It's usually a want or an emotional attachment. So, we're not selling you bread and milk or something that you need to exist. It's something that you want to identify with us. So we feel real good about the money and what it does. This is just a little bar chart of how things have changed. These are our gross revenues. This chart only goes back to 94, but the program actually goes back to 1974. It lost money until 1981. So when they started, it was just simply to protect the trademarks. It wasn't to, I don't think anybody in their wildest imagination thought they'd ever make $1 million, let alone 16 or 17. So you can see the growth here, kind of bumped along there a little bit, around $1 million or $2 million for a while. The first year that the program actually went down and didn't have a growth year was 1999, which was the year I was named director. But then I got smart. I said, we went down. We didn't really have a very good year in 2001 either. I thought, what can we do? So I went out and hired Jim Tressel. So in 2003, the first gray bar is, you can see what happened. We were at about $2.5 million in royalties and went over $5 million just because of the championship and all the attention it brought back to Ohio State. We were a good brand. I mean, again, we were kind of doing better than most people at that time, but that just kind of jump-started things. So the gray bars are actually the years that we either won or played for a national championship in football. And the two in the middle there were not successful, but we did play. So you can see where that kind of helps you along the way. It builds some equity in your brand. And this year, we project we'll end the year at about somewhere between 16 and 17 million. So just huge business, just huge. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this with all this light, but this series of squiggly lines, one of my favorite things to illustrate what we do. The blue line is that team up north. The orange line is Texas, and the red line is Ohio State. And there was a day when Michigan kicked our ass. And back in the mid-'90s, things were going their way. They were making about $6 million in royalties when Texas and Ohio State weren't making $2 million. But then you can see how their fortunes changed, and you get some other things that happen to their illustrious brand. That's a joke. Texas started growing. Things started turning around here, and you see the orange and the red lines start trending up, and Michigan's trending down, and now they're coming back a little bit, but you can see they still trail both of us. In Texas, the last couple of years, another good example. So our fortunes, I'd like to say, I always say in the good years, we have great management of the program. In the bad years, it's the football coach's fault. So, but you can see, and I use this to illustrate that we're not constant. We're not like a business that maybe one of you run where every year you're just trying to get a little better, or you're just trying to get a little bigger, and you grow your revenues, and you have projections, and you think you can meet it. A lot of what I do depends on an 18-year-old down on the football field on Saturday afternoon. Okay, this year's championship. We sold 82,000 of those caps and 255,000 of those black T-shirts. And those are I'm not allowed to tell you what the other guys do because of confidentiality agreements with the NFL, but that outsold every college or pro team, and most of them put together, for what we would call like a Super Bowl or championship event. And a funny little sidelight, we reprinted that shirt so many times that Nike ran out of black T-shirts in the United States. So we had to slow down. But it just shows what happens. Now this was, I'll be honest, from a fashion standpoint, this was a great shirt. So it really helped us that they came out with a nice design. It had the beautiful foil underneath the brim and the hat, which was something different. They did a nice, people like black. It looks good on T-shirts. So, but it looked a lot better with our logo on it. I sat at the championship game with a bunch of people from Nike were behind me, and you know where Nike's located in Oregon. So they're all, like pimping me by wearing Oregon stuff, sitting there, and I go like, okay, guys, look, let's be honest. Would you rather have us win or Oregon win? Because pre-orders were about 12-1 in our favor. So at the end of the game, they really liked Ohio State. So they weren't really disappointed. Okay, just some of the fun stuff that we do on the other side of our business. So when you have something that's popular like our brand, and we have problems every day with counterfeiters. We have problems mostly online. But after the championship, we had our stadium celebration. And we have a vendor patrol that works all of our games, but we had a higher emphasis for that celebration because we knew there'd be people out there. So this is a lawyer's and a trademark administrator's best dream, is to have somebody try to actually copy a real shirt. That's just the easiest thing to take before a judge and claim that you've been damaged. So the shirt on the left is the legitimate Nike shirt. The shirt on the right is the one we got from a street vendor the day of the championship celebration. So you can see, to most people, especially in this kind of lighting and my kind of photography, you can't see the subtle differences, but there are some in there. And we knew, we kind of saw those. So we have a court order that allows us just to issue him a summons and take the shirts on site. So this is a little close-up of the neck label. The Nike version obviously has the swoosh. It has all the legal has the washing instructions, everything printed in the shirt. The right is just a blank extra large T-shirt. So I'm sure none of you bought one. So this is our gentleman. So it was kind of a funny afternoon. They're talking to him. He was out laying in Tuttle and had a tent set up and everything. And they arrest him on a felony counterfeiting charge. And our cop is handing him basically the summons. It says, here you're going to appear in court on Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. It's like getting a speeding ticket or something. It says you got to show up. And the guy goes, I can't be there. And this is a true story. He goes, I can't be there Monday. And the guy goes, our cop's going like, well, you better be. He goes, I can't make it. Go and do the Super Bowl. Because these guys do that. They jump around to all the venues, and we had huge problems over the weekend with concerts. They're even worse. They're transient vendors. This guy, isn't that a beautiful picture? It kind of reminds me of Nick Nolte. Remember that one? He doesn't look real happy, but this was in Hillsborough County in Florida. So he has a warrant. We go to the grand jury. They issue a warrant for this guy. We find out that he's been arrested 20 times in 5 different states doing the exact same thing, and nobody bothered really to take him all the way to the wall on prosecution. So we met with the prosecutors here and said, we'll get Nike involved. We're interested. And they were as well. So we went to the grand jury, got an indictment. He got picked up in Florida, I think, for some kind of parking or traffic violation. And Florida, to our surprise, agreed to extradite him. So he's standing trial on July 15th. Now, here's another little sidelight to this story. So pretend you're the judge or the jury. No, let's make you the jury. So, Mr. Quatrine, you've done this before? Yes, 20 times, 5 different states. You knew it was counterfeit? Well, the guy didn't tell me it was. And what's your state of residence? Michigan. This guy's going to hang. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. You can edit that part out. Okay. So quickly, just some of the other problems we have. These are online. I said we really have an issue with vendors that are on the internet because it is just worse than the Wild Wild West out there. So we go online any given day. We have watch services. We have shutdown services. We're chasing stuff all the time. It's almost become a full-time job for one of our employees. So these were Braxton Miller jerseys in 3 different colors. Well, we don't make a black jersey. We've never worn one. Not saying we never will. But we absolutely can't, by NCAA rules, sell a jersey with somebody's name on it. So this is wrong right from the get-go. So ends up, these are coming out of a factory in Korea, and I'm going to read this to you because this is kind of fun. I'll read it exactly as it's written. This was the description on the store. Welcome to our American football jerseys shop. Our store offers different kinds of cheap American football jerseys, high quality and low price. You can to search by the football player name in our shop for your like. Show of hands. How many people would give them your credit card number? Okay. Okay, so looking ahead, what's kind of, what are some of the things that we're doing as we try to expand our business? Whatever. Okay, the thing in the upper left that says Luck of the Buckeyes, a lot more around the holidays. For some reason, and it's not just us, it's all licensed products, whether it's Mickey Mouse or Ohio State, people they like to celebrate the brand around the calendar. So those are basically St. Patrick's Day, kind of green items. Same thing with Halloween. I thought one of the most clever shirts we've ever seen. We had skeletons that were spelling out the OHIO, and they glowed in the dark. And I was like, that is just really clever. So it kind of gives us a new way to get into certain dates on the calendar that maybe don't have anything to do with what's going on Saturday afternoon. The Taco Tuesday thing we did with Aaron Kraft, the whole thing that kind of got social media viral with his roommates. They all ate tacos you guys heard that story? They all would get together and eat tacos on Tuesday. And so we did, anytime we played a home game on Tuesday in the shot, we served tacos and we donated money to a charity. And then some of the other things are just the unusual. We never really did footwear. We tried some footwear with Nike this year, did extremely well. We do have a pool table. We have RV wheel covers and grill covers. So just trying to move, we've gone from, and this back when I started, there wasn't a lot of licensed products for your home. So people would decorate their second or third bathroom. Did anybody ever been in somebody's house where they've got like the fan bathroom? So that was where we were. And I've said we've kind of moved out of your bathroom, and now we're in your den and your garage and your patio. So we're just kind of moving through the house. And as Mike, talked about with the end of life, so we I don't mean this to sound funny, but we literally are cradle to grave. It's that kind of brand. So what's new? I'm actually wearing one of the shirts. This is our Buckeye Tartan program, and we were looking for something very special to do at the highest end of our price points because we have a lot of t-shirts and sweatshirts. We have some nice sweaters. We have some of the other apparel. But we wanted something that was truly unique and different. So we created this tartan plaid, which mimics our football stripe pattern on our helmet. And we registered this with the official tartan registry in Scotland. Seriously. I mean, it's like a big deal. So this is kind of like our Burberry. And like the shirt I have on, these are custom-made dress shirts. They're not at our typical $80 or $90 price point. So we've done a line of furniture with it, but we're finding a lot of success too in the formal wear categories where tux rentals for weddings, they like this versus, a Brutus t-shirt, a little classier. So that's going well. And you'll see more of that. We're particularly seeding that in the golf, and we're doing a little presentation of this at the alumni golf outing this fall. Because it has the whole plaid ties back to Scotland, ties back to golf. The lower left hand there was, hopefully you've seen, we did a program with Pink, started about 3 or 4 years ago, done extremely well, top selling school in the country. Pink loves us. The middle shirt is a Brooks Brothers dress shirt with the logo placement on the sleeve, a little different. It's a regular Brooks Brothers $95 dress shirt, but just kind of glammed it up a little bit with our logo. And the gal on the right, we're doing a plus size program with Learner, and that is really doing very well. The average women's size now is 14 and above, and there isn't a lot of product for her. We do a limited amount for the big and tall male, but we weren't doing very much for the plus-size woman, so we're doing a little more there. And as Mike said, this is our little buddy's 50th birthday, so we're doing some celebration planning, and we have a 50th birthday logo, and you'll see some special merchandise for him. And it's also the 50th anniversary of Hang On Sloopy, so we're kind of combining those, and we'll have a little birthday party for Brutus at one of the games this fall. And the one on the left there, does anybody remember that one? I hope. Yeah, that was actually the second version, because the first one was paper mache. And Mike mentioned the couple we're dealing with. They claim, well, they're the parents of Brutus, and they say he was conceived on the lawn of the Pi-Fi house because he was actually paper mache. And they built him out of chicken wire, 2x4s, and paper mache. And then when that dissolved after about 2 games, they went to this fiberglass version. Don't be surprised if you see him come back. So anyway, that's really all I've prepared. I don't know where we are on time, but I would love to take some questions if you have them. We'll start here and go backward.
Under freedom of speech, what is somebody allowed to do without getting a license?
We don't pay any attention to that Constitution thing. We shoot first and ask questions later. They actually can. It's a good, serious question. The expression is one thing. So if I make up a website, these are real court cases, Walmart sucks. You know, I can print a T-shirt and I can say Walmart sucks and I don't like them. But if I commercialize that into I'm running a business off of their fame, then it crosses the line. So freedom of speech is protected. You know, you write a book or write an article, you're probably good. But if you mass produce T-shirts that say, well, here's my rendition of Ohio Stadium, now you're into, if you want to pass him a gift card. Yeah. Usually, when I'm teaching a class or something at the university, I have to give away stuff to get them to ask questions. You guys might be different. Okay, I was going to go. Well, now look, see, everybody now they think they're $3 gift cards. I mean, it's not okay. That same table, and then we'll go backward.
I want a gift card.
Oh, you're welcome to it.
My question is, I thought I heard you say that you don't do any jerseys and that sort of thing with people's names on the back.
Right, player names.
Player names, right. But I see a lot of them. So anything I see like that are...
They're bootleg. Or they. You could conceivably buy one and take it to your local sporting goods store and talk your buddy into it, but no, if you saw it, it's not good. We do personalize, like if your name is Smith, you can go get whatever number you want with your name, but we also have a block name list, so we're not going to do number 5. If your name's Miller, you can't buy number 5, you could buy 6. You know, so we have our players' names blocked. We have historical player name blocked, so you can't do a Griffin 45. But good question. Okay, back.
Ohio State has some strong affinity sub-brands like the Fisher College of Business or Tibittle. How do you interact with those brands?
We own them. They're all under one umbrella, and you know, the reality of the business side is we're going to sell a lot more T-shirts that say Ohio State football than we are Ohio State astronomy. And it's not a knock on astronomy. They just don't play on Saturday afternoons. They play at night. So, and we do too a lot now. But it's really just a market factor. We do sell a limited amount. We're trying to figure out better ways to customize so that if you're an executive MBA graduate, that you can have a shirt that says Ohio State Executive MBA. But any program name, any department name, they're all covered under our umbrella for the commercialization. There was another name at that table, or you're right there. Yeah, right in front of you.
Yes, I was at the national championship game, and the one thing that bothered me...
Did you buy a T-shirt?
Oh, I didn't get
Killing me.
truthfully, before the game, of course, it was in a remote area, there were only 2 places around that entire stadium where you could buy products that we found. We were all the way around. And after the game, you just didn't have the merchandise out there. And obviously, we outnumbered the Oregon people considerably.
Yeah.
Whereas I've at the Rose Bowl, you've done a much, much better job. Were you not feeling good before the game that you're going
Whoa, look at the time. No, actually, you bring up a good point. We're not in control of the actual venues once we get beyond our own stadiums. So try to make it simple. We, as part of the Big Ten, we allow the Big Ten to negotiate our TV rights and our bowl game contracts on our behalf collectively. So that college football playoff system is actually governed by the CFP. They have contracts with the people doing the merchandise there. I don't have any say in it at all. And we experienced the same thing. I had a much different reason for going around looking at the stores than you did, but I was inside the stadium and couldn't get into the stores. They were so packed. But that is one of the things you give up control once you leave your own venue. We can do whatever we want to do here, but once we end up in Dallas or wherever, because I experienced the same thing at the team hotel. Stuff sold out very quickly on the Ohio State hotels and not so quickly in the Oregon hotels, and we had a lot of problem getting the product that people wanted. So, it doesn't affect us at all because the payout is through the bowl. So it's not like, well, I lost that dime because you couldn't find a shirt. It's just they lost a sale. So let's move around.
Up until a few years ago, the Buckeye leaf was on the Block O, at least for the Alumni Association, but
Yeah.
now it's not. Was it artistic, defendability, just a decision to make a change?
No, it was probably a little bit of a lot of things. One is it was becoming a little aged in the way it looked. It had always been criticized as mimicking the marijuana leaves. Then the university had brought in somebody that was trying to consolidate our brands. We had department logos and versions of the O and versions of the leaf all over the place. So it was like, we need to get back to a more corporate identity, which is the plain Block O with a department name beside it. So part of that is just aesthetics, and things get old and need to be refreshed. Like I had our little buddy over there. He's gone through a bunch of changes in his lifetime, and the logos do the same thing. Department looks do the same thing.
One last question.
Okay. You pick.
I assume that Nike has an exclusive for all the apparel?
No. They have.
Other manufacturers?
They have an exclusive for what we actually wear on our athletic teams and the equipment that we provide to our athletic teams, but they have a license to actually sell what we wear and what we don't wear. They do a lot of stuff that we don't get as a team, but then we also have agreements with other manufacturers to satisfy the rest of it. And what we did a couple years ago was sign a semi-exclusive with a company called J America to do almost everything else. We got an elevated royalty rate. Because I'm challenged, my boss comes to me and says, and I showed you what kind of environment it's in with winning and losing having an effect on your business. So it was like, well, how do we guarantee that money so that when departments and programs that we distribute money to, we can't go to them one year and say, well, here you get $3 million, next year you only get $2 million, and like, whoops, what do we do? So we've gone to more exclusive guaranteed contracts to kind of even out our revenue stream. So good question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Sure. This is a gift from us from Argo and Laney Jewelers. And I think Mike told me to also give you back here. Mr. Brimmer, I just wanted to tell you that we did not select these colors. It was we did not want to violate the scarlet and gray colors. Anyway, that being said, our meeting is adjourned. See you next week for the changing of the guard.